So what happens is over time, all of your old habits have to make way for new habits because they just don't fit into this action plan if you're taking it serious. And if you're no longer just like entertaining the idea and you're taking action on it.
This is the Just Real Quick podcast, where we discuss how to succeed in the world of sales through confidence, discipline, and consistency. Are you ready to be intentional about creating more opportunities that lead to sales? Tune into this episode right now for the latest insights and strategies that will take your sales game to the next level. I'm your host, Jefferson K. Rogers.
Welcome back to another episode of Just Real Quick. Jefferson Rogers here with Bobby Garcia in the studio with me today. We're going to have a great episode talking about breaking records, high performance, discipline, and everything you need to take your sales game to the next level. Like I said, in the studio today, we got Bobby Garcia, fresh off a record-breaking month in the month of April 2023. And boy, did he break this record. We're talking dang near doubled the previous record that stood for a long time. So what was the difference, Bobby? Because I know that you've had some good months, but you've never really even came close to breaking the previous record.
No.
And then all of a sudden you turn it up.
Yeah. I recently turned 25 this last month. That
halfway to 50.
Exactly.
That have something to do with it?
It was kind of the quarter of a century is the way I look at it. Way I kind of panned it out. People ask me, hey, how old are you turning? And instead of saying 25, I'm like, I'm a quarter of a century old. Started questioning myself and going like,
wait, what does that mean? Quarter of a century? I wouldn't have known that.
I started looking at it as like, man, I've kind of squandered the last little bit of my life, you know. That was that one quarter, and I'm looking at it as, well, I'm in the second quarter now. And it's big time, you know. Like, there's a lot coming forward in my life, a lot of opportunity. It's always been there, but it's like it's
starting to recognize it.
Yeah, I really am. It's coming face to face with me. And so I had some small rude awakenings, and I had that scare with my health and got the shingles and everything. And I was like, what the heck, man? So when I turned 25, I was like, I think it's time to kind of turn it up a notch. And after also being sick, I really noticed I needed to dial myself in a lot more. There were certain things that I was doing where I was dialed, but it was this momentary consistency. And it's like, oh yeah, it could be super consistent for, a week or two out of this month. And then it would just kind of squander. Mm-hmm. And I was like, nah.
Because it's great money. It's like, even when you turn it up for a week, you can make great money.
Yeah. And so I started noticing that I really wanted to take advantage of every single day and be a little bit more present in what I was doing with my life, mainly for the people that are around me, for you guys, for giving me this opportunity as well, but then also showing up for myself.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing. And I don't think a lot of people show up for themselves when I wake up every single day. So I started doing that every single morning where I show up for myself and wake up and start doing the small hard things in the morning, and started noticing that it really gave me a refreshing mindset where my mindset has been awakened comparative to what it was before.
Okay.
I really don't have off days. I can say that I do comparison to sometimes I'm just on this wavelength that's untouchable, I feel like. Mm-hmm. But even on those days that aren't quite there, I just re-tap back in. I push myself and continually focus on those little steps. As soon as I'm getting out on the pavement, I'm noticing, hey, all right, first conversation, I'm trying to make the most value out of. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad. What can I take from it?
Start off on the right foot.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then continually apply that all throughout the day, but noticing the micromanagement of every single hour I'm out there. But not paying attention to the clock as well. It's more like, hey, I got this hour. To
just making the best use of your time.
Yep, to get this appointment scheduled today, help somebody out today, find my 2 homes in this neighborhood that I want to help out today. Mm-hmm. That's how I've been looking at it and really been prioritizing that as a big thing. And so rather than looking at it as like, oh yeah, I can find mine in a week. No, I find mine today. And just continue to move and find as many people as I can help, but also just being myself. And these relationships that I've been building with these customers, the relationships that I'm building with people just on a daily basis is completely different than what I have been doing before.
What I've noticed is you've always been good at that.
Yeah.
And that's what made you good early on. And when you started, you were coming from a place of working at restaurants and some odds and ends jobs and having to work your ass off to make the amount of money that you could make sometimes in 2 days.
Yeah.
So I can understand. I went through those same types of things where you can go hard for a couple of days. Yep. And then you're just looking at the amount that you just made. And it's hard to not get distracted by that. Mm-hmm. Because you just made as much in the last 2 days as you used to make in a month.
Exactly. Yeah.
And now it's kind of like, well, all these other things are looking really attractive. And then you go through these ups and downs.
Yep.
And I think what separated your record-breaking month, $477,000 in revenue. The previous record was only $251,000. That's crazy. I mean, dang near doubled it.
Yep.
But the difference was you weren't paying attention to that anymore. You weren't letting that distract you anymore. No. I mean, you probably couldn't even tell me right now how much you made last month because it wasn't something that you were paying attention to as much.
Not as much, but I could give you an average. I mean,
well, you've had time to calculate it now.
Yeah, it was.
But if it was at the top of your mind, it would have distracted you like it used to, don't you think?
And I had other goals. Like I talked about with you before. I mean, I was able to fix my credit. My credit was in the dumps. I had all this debt that I had to wipe out, and I wiped all that away and looked at my credit score today, and it's like it's a whole new world for me right now.
But would you say that you're money motivated?
No, it's the actual, it's even the effort. I lost the effort motivation because I felt like that was a thing. And I try to tell everybody this all the time is that there's this, you get stuck up on this effort. Oh, I went out for my 3 hours and I got a couple sets. Oh, that's great. Mm-hmm. No, absolutely not. I don't settle for that anymore. I don't settle for anything. I have my little reminders. No one cares. Work harder on my wrist. Mm-hmm. And then never satisfied. And the biggest thing is that I notice is like I have these big goals for myself, but I'm seeing what our goals are. We need to level these up. And if I need to level up myself in order to help out as much as possible, it's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, it's more than just about you now.
I'm trying to set the pace for everybody else too. And then I'm working on what I can do for training for these other coordinators to kind of paint the picture and kind of get everybody more productive and on the same track because these goals that we're looking at, they're not hard. We don't have the biggest team, but we can demolish these goals that we have now if everybody's on the same page.
Yeah. If we have leadership contributing to each individual person's success and belief and activity. And I think, we've always had a strong culture, but there's some of these other things that we've put in place over the past 6 months that have helped us get to a place that we are now. Yeah. With all this momentum, with everybody just operating at such a high level. We've trimmed some of the fat, per se, with some of the people who just weren't willing to get to that level and rise to the occasion and meet those expectations. So it's helped everybody level up because it's almost been, we did get rid of some people that weren't willing to do that, but then it's also kind of shined a light on how serious we're taking our culture and our environment and our expectations now. Yep. And it's like we had to use them as an example of we're not making exceptions anymore. We've got to hold these high standards and everybody will rise.
Exactly.
All the ships rise with the rising tide. And it's crazy what we've seen with a smaller team. Yep. And we are hitting some crazy numbers right now.
It's insane. I love seeing everybody else's success and some of the quick successes that we're seeing with some of the new guys coming in too. Mm-hmm. I mean, isn't
it interesting? Like when you plug somebody in who has potential, but you plug them into a mediocre environment, not a lot of energy, and there's some inconsistencies, and there's some of these like the outliers that are just doing one or two versus plugging them into an environment like this where everybody is operating at a high level and everybody's got this energy and enthusiasm. And then these new guys come in and that's all they know. Like they're trying to live up to the standard of Bobby Garcia and these other guys that are just hitting some big numbers.
Oh, yeah.
And we're changing people's lives. Like a couple of these new guys that just came in from like restaurants and both of them from restaurants.
Well, and then, I mean, look at our youngest one, fresh out of school.
Yeah.
and
he's killing it.
He technically broke the old record as well.
Did he go over that record too?
I think he ended at 255. Like, how insane is that? But he was trying to keep up with me.
What?
We were sitting there talking on the pod because he was with me on the pod in Yuma. And he's questioning it. And he's like, what was the old record? I was like, 251K. And he's like, what am I at? Like, I told him his numbers because he wasn't keeping track either. Just keeping his head down. Kid's awesome. And I was like, dude, you're at like 255K for the month after that last one, dude. I was like, good job. I was like, that's insane. Too. I know. He's like, and he's upset. Not with what had happened or anything, or the fact that he didn't break the record. He's just upset because he's like, dang it. He's like, I have aspirations. Yeah. I have aspirations because Andres and him had a talk. He's like, I want to be a director. I want to be the youngest director for JKR. And he's like, all right. He's like, we'll be the number one coordinator 3 months in a row. We'll talk. And then he looks up at the difference in revenue that we have. And that's why he's upset. He's like, I'm going to be on your coattail the entire time. But he's
got big goals.
It's awesome because then I can set that pace for people. And I'm not going to let off. That $477K, I'm not satisfied with that. I want to do better. I want to break the director record for a month as a coordinator. Like, how insane would that be? And it's feasible. It's so feasible. You break down and micromanage the numbers. I mean, we're going out to Flagstaff here soon. And I want to do some big things out there. I want to push myself further because I've broken over a handful of records at this point, I would say, so far as like the actual sales in a week, the actual
monthly record.
The monthly record.
You're within probably the next month, you'll have broken the annual record too.
Exactly. That too. I mean, even then since November, I think I'm at like over 600, which then looking back at the 477, it's like, okay, now you see like, okay, what can you actually do? And so I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Hey, by the way, do you have your passport?
Yes.
It's all updated and everything because you're going to Costa Rica with us, bro.
I'm going for sure. That's no doubt in my mind. And, that's one thing I need to get my girlfriend set up with that because
she needs one too.
She's coming along. She's excited. That's one place that she's wanted to go. And it's
amazing.
I want to be able to provide as much value for you guys as I can. It's not about me anymore. It really isn't. I'm a beneficiary because of the work that I put in, but it's about the people that are in my life, the people that I care. I live by a law of love. That's what I've found is most important to me. And how can I show love? Well, I show up, I work and I dedicate myself and I stop allowing myself to let myself down, but also let down the other people because all these other people have this belief. They have this way that they look at you. And I've always gave off that. I think you can say, I've always had that relationship building strength.
Absolutely.
But I've never been very consistent with that person that I give off to be. And I'm tired of not being consistent in that area.
The one thing about it, Bobby, and we've talked about this before, is you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You had to go through all those ups and downs and all the inconsistencies and the 1 foot in, 1 foot out type of stuff. There's valuable lessons that you had to learn. You're only 25 years old, bro.
I know.
You got so many more of those to learn too. But you wouldn't be where you were now without having gone through that first. So embrace it, love it. It's a part of you, and don't be ashamed of it or regret any of it.
Don't.
You're right exactly where you're supposed to be, and it now makes you just uniquely qualified to help your team better and more than you ever have before.
Yep, and I'm so excited about that. That's what makes me the happiest, that I can provide value. I can be there for my girl. I can be there for my mom. I can help out my sister. I have the opportunity to. You guys give me the freedom to do so, and I can still go back out and show up for the team and lead all these other guys, all these newbies that are coming in, or even lead some of the guys that are kind of questioning, like, where's my consistency at, right? And
sometimes you got to build it. It's not there yet.
It's built, but it's also simple. It is so simple once you dial it in. Like I said, I've worked harder previous months to try to generate, $200K in a month, and was never consistent with that. And then everything just kind of fell into place for me this month, to where I noticed, okay, what am I going to sacrifice? I'll get rid of the stupid video games. Had a scare with the vaping. I got back on track with that for no reason whatsoever. And then as soon as I had my health scare with it, dumped it. Haven't looked back. I have nightmares about it now because I literally will have a dream about that happening, and I wake up and I go, was that real? Because it was vivid as all can be. And then I look back on it, I'm like, nope, we're staying true to it. And I will. I'm not going to let myself down like that again. And it's those consistencies there where I'm sacrificing the old things in order to create room for the new and grow and create a solid foundation for myself moving forward. That's what's made a huge difference for me.
And I think one of the things that's helped me, because I've dealt with all those same things. I vaped, I did the oil pens, THC, I chewed tobacco, I smoked cigarettes, I drank heavy. And every single one of those things, just one by one, I had to come to those realizations for myself. Like, I'm compromising my own immune system, my own health, my longevity, the time that I'm going to be able to spend as a healthy father and husband to my family. And I'm also an example to everybody around me. Everybody, whether you think you are or not, people are watching and they're paying attention. This guy that seems like he has it all together, All of a sudden he pulls out a vape and they're like, oh, I knew there was something.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to have anybody think about that way about me. And, there's different thoughts about this. Like, who gives a shit about what people think? Mm-hmm. Well, it's in certain ways. But there is certain ways that I do give a shit because I'm a leader and we're examples and we're powerful men. And people that aren't as powerful and are earlier on in the journey are using us as kind of a gauge of what things are going to be allowable in their life.
It's very true.
And if they see us doing questionable shit, they're going to consider doing questionable shit for themselves.
Yep.
So the drugs, the alcohol, the vape, the tobacco, everything.
Well, you can break it down to even as simple as the negative type of stuff that you take into your life that you allow as well. I've seen you take that very strong play from it when I first jumped into the company where it's like, hey, no, we don't tolerate that. It's like definitely here, but anything in your life. And I've started to apply that to myself to where it's like social media, I'm barely ever on. Mm-hmm. If I ever am on social media, it's checking out what we have to post, any type of valuable nuggets that you guys give me from this podcast. But then on top of it, getting some actual motivation in my life from that, looking at other motivational speakers, other people that have made it, that are giving me nuggets, that are talking about, how and what changed their life entirely. Mm-hmm. I mean, I should remember the names of some, but one the other day really hit me pretty hard. And this guy was talking about a mentor in his life that came in and changed his life in a minute. And he asked him, he's like, what goals do you have? And he's like, oh, well, I want to go out tonight. I want to have some drinks and probably take a girl home. And because he was super young
at that stage in his life, that was his
goals. He's like, interesting. He's like, what about, year 5, 10 years from now? What are your big goals? I don't have any. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Like, write down some goals, like goals that you want to achieve in your life, things that you could see yourself doing, the person that you want to be growing up. He's like, write down what it's going to take to make yourself satisfied and the things that you want to achieve. He's like, and then we'll talk again. And so they sat down and they had another conversation. And he's like, all right. He's like, so you wrote down your goals. He's like, have you done anything to work towards those yet? He's like, no, not really. He's like, so you've just been entertaining the idea. Mm-hmm. He's like, how about you start to commit to these actual goals every single day? Commit to yourself, commit to these goals. And that completely turned things around for him, where he was like, I was never even fully showing up, not fully committing. Yeah. And that's what it takes. Actually committing to these things. You commit to the people in your life. You commit to the job that you take on. You commit to yourself. And so that also hit home for me to where I was like, yeah, I've just entertained some goals. I've entertained these dreams. I'm not going to be just this false dreamer. No, not anymore. I've done
there's a big difference between dreams and goals.
Yeah.
And that's what most people do, is they dream, and they very rarely ever even write them down. They just dream about the things that could be possible. And I think the difference is the intentionality behind it, but then also the action plans. Mm-hmm. Because some of those things, like for that example, that guy drinking and taking a woman home, is just like these really surface level things that are a part of that group and the environment that he's a part of. And that's what he's taking action on. Yep. But what happens is, as you start to put goals together and then you have an action plan, those things no longer are even tolerable within that little plan and within those goals. Nowhere in that goal does that part of that fit into that. So what happens is, over time, all of your old habits have to make way for new habits because they just don't fit into this action plan if you're taking it serious. And if you're no longer just like entertaining the idea and you're taking action on it. Yep. So that's why I think that I've seen you do a lot of talk about goals. And over the last couple of years, you've got big aspirations and you've got a creative mind and you can retain a lot of information. You got all these ideas rolling around up here. Mm-hmm. But what starts to separate the big talk from the progress is putting those action plans together and executing. And then all those little things like the video games, there's a time and a place. Mm-hmm. The going to parties and hanging out with friends, there's a time and a place. But they start to become less and less and less of a priority as you're focused all of your attention in the direction of these big ass fucking crazy, amazing goals that are going to change your life.
Oh yeah. Nope, it's huge. And that's where I'm at currently. Is I've noticed it's like I have all the freedom sometimes, Lay down at night. It's early. Temptation kicks in. I'm sitting there, got my big old TV right there in my room, my Xbox all set up. And I leave it plugged in just to go ahead and tempt myself. I haven't touched the damn thing. There's no reason to.
There's a whole lot of other productive things you can be doing with your time.
At night, I have my Audible book playing, or one thing that I started watching. I did start watching a show. It's the only thing that I actually entertain myself with. Is on Netflix. Is How to Get Rich, and I'm so bad with names. I need to work on that, and I can't tell myself that because if I keep telling myself that, it's going to be a trick.
At least you know.
But guy's awesome. I think his name's Malik. I do think I remember that correctly. And people actually allow him into their lives, and he's not just this financial advisor or anything like that, but they give him access to all of their spreadsheets, every single bit of banking information, everything. And he comes in and he tells them, hey, what does your rich life look like? Like, how would you like to live your rich life? Okay. Well, let's make this realistic and let's break down what's wrong. He helps them
put together those action plans.
Yeah. And so I've been watching that, and it's helping me put together my own action plan to where I'm taking notes on the whole show and like what, wasn't working for other people and what's not working for me, and I'm breaking it all down. And now I'm just keeping it very, very simple. What I've noticed is simplicity. There's a beauty in simplicity, and it makes things very easy, but it leaves a lot of open doors for you. Yeah. Because especially in the field that we're in, like you said, there's opportunity to make a lot of money. Well, it doesn't mean you go out and spend it, right? Yeah. So at this point in time, I'm just focused on what's coming forth and creating the flexibility in my life. And that flexibility is based upon having a savings, but then also moving my money around accordingly. Putting the stuff away in savings to where I have it actually building up.
You starting to think about investments?
Yes. So that is a huge thing. Still not necessarily sure where I want to invest or how, but I know that there is open door, when
there
you
is.
do make that
I'm
move.
looking at a handful of investments right now that if you had enough money that I could get you an introduction, and you start at 25 years old, making anywhere from 12 to sometimes these deals that I'm in are making 30 to 40% return. Goodness gracious. And then you keep rolling that shit up. Dude, you'll be a millionaire in no time. And have cash flow coming in every month that's supplementing your active income. But you got to start. And right now is a good time to just start thinking about it. It's okay that you don't have any yet. I didn't really start investing until I was 37 years old. Yeah. So that's another 12 years. But having an idea of the kind of goals that you want to have for your income, for longevity, for retirement, for living a crazy, amazing dream lifestyle. It doesn't happen from like going out there and being the best salesman in the world.
No, it doesn't.
It happens by being intentional with the money that you make from being a badass salesman, continuing to develop your skills and abilities, and then taking that money and doing something smart with it.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people can make money, but they don't know how to make their money work for them. And investing is a huge part, and then additionally with the credit side of things too. And so that's my main focus right now.
So tell us about your credit, bro. I'm excited about this because back in the day, I was totally against credit. Yeah. I didn't know about it. I was naive. I thought that I didn't need it. And I was just a punk ass kid. And actually, I was still like 24 years old when I was having these thoughts like, fuck credit. I don't need it. I pay everything for cash. I didn't understand it. But then once I did start to understand it, it like opened up all these possibilities and using leverage and buying cars and houses and being able to take the money that you would have used to pay cash and put it into something that's actually paying you. And now you're making more over here with the return on the investment that you made with your cash that's going to pay for your payment.
Exactly.
But you got to have credit. So tell us what you did to get your credit fixed.
So I have no positive credit history. I have no credit history so far. Last month I decided to start taking that act to where I was like, okay, we're going to start fixing this. And so I sat down with my bank. I talked to the banking lady, and we sat down and had a serious conversation about things. And she's like, okay, so you want to set up your business account, under this domain and everything like that? I'm like, yeah. So we're going to get this business account set up. And what I'd like to do is open up these avenues. She's like, well, let's fix your personal credit first. I'm like, absolutely. So she gave me some information just going on to annualcreditscore.com and looking back and seeing what your actual debts are. And so I went through and I looked at all of them, got in contact with all of them, and with the money that that I made, that's where majority of my money has gone.
Now, had you had credit cards in the past?
I did bank with one bank, and I did go negative. That was...
Which was a credit card? Mm-hmm. So you had started to establish some credit, but because of your...
It wasn't
let's
anything
say lack
like,
of education.
It was lack of education, but it wasn't anything serious that I had actually like applied for. Like it didn't do like a financing rate for anything, right?
Right.
I just used this credit card as most people use a credit card. Let me make this little purchase here and there, you know? It's not benefiting you.
You got to pay that back. I did the same thing when I was a kid. My mom got me a credit card when I was 18, and she tried to educate me, but I just didn't understand it or didn't take the time to understand it. And I maxed it out. Yep. And then I just said, well, fuck it. What are they going to do? Like, are they going to come to my house? Mm-hmm. Like, it's just so naive. Yeah. And my credit took a really big dive, too, for a lot of years. And I just didn't want to fix it. I ignored it. It stayed on my credit report. Yep. And then you got to go back and fix that stuff.
So that was the major part that was holding me back. So I had two. It was actually through my business, my old business account that I had set up, that I had a credit card on. And then my personal. And they both stacked together.
So you had a couple that you had to go fix.
They added both of them together, and then I had like a recent bill from debt collection from a couple other things, from stuff back in Colorado, 2018, when I had no insurance and I was 18 years old. Yeah. I was just a kid. And that all got sent to like Wakefield and Associates and all that stuff. So they went to collect, and everything went to collections, and I just took one at a time. Bam, 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 paid them off. Wow. Paid everything off, went all throughout that, and I checked my credit score last month. When I was right before I paid off all those debts, I was sitting at 540. I was like, oh, that's sad. That's sad. I can't do anything right now.
Not with a 540. That's considered poor. Mm-hmm. Poor credit scale. Yeah. There's the green, yellow, orange, and red. Yep. You're down here in the red.
Oh, yeah. It was bad. And so I was like, all right, well, let's get this managed. And I was like, I'll just take it step by step. And checked my credit score today. I'm sitting at 705.
705. Yeah. Just like that.
Just like that.
Now, what have you learned going into the future about the power of credit and how you're going to manage it moving forward?
Well, as far as that goes, definitely making the right purchases. Bigger purchases are great, especially when you're doing like a financing rate, something that's going to help build your credit when you build up that positive credit history. So my next purchase is actually going to be my vehicle at the end of the month, getting a new car.
You doing a big down payment?
So big down payment, and then I'm going to finance the rest. Okay. That way I have a financing rate, and then go through it. And the exact percentages I'm still not directly on, but I think it's like down to like 30% based upon what you're actually using for your credit card, and then in between about 15%.
For your utilization?
Yeah. And so like paying off like whatever amount that I'm using.
Okay. So from my understanding, there's a couple of tricks if you really want to skyrocket your credit. Okay. So when you do buy your car, find out what the minimum or the maximum payment that you can afford that you want. Okay. And then only make a down payment to get you to that monthly payment. Okay. And then if you have extra, what the algorithm wants to see is that you have a car loan and it's a revolving line of credit. But what they want to see and what really accelerates your growth with your credit score is then paying it 50% off.
Okay, 50%.
So if you got a $15,000 loan and you got the biggest payment that you could afford or that you wanted, but then you paid $7,500 on it, you're still going to have the same payment. Yep. But now that's going to show every month moving forward until you pay it off that it's been paid down by 50%. And that's going to really accelerate your credit score. Okay. And then also on your credit score, on your credit cards, what's interesting is I just made a 15-minute phone call today to the bank where I've had a credit card for a number of years. And every so often, every 6 months to a year, I'll call and ask for a credit line increase. And I just asked for a ridiculous credit line increase because it's not like a yes or no. Mm-hmm. It's okay, like we'll consider that. And we usually end up like somewhere in between and they'll make me a counter offer. But because I've been doing this so consistently and I use that credit card for everything and I pay it off and I never go over a certain amount, I asked for double what my old credit card limit was. And she's like, like, we don't usually ever even do more than 20%, but we'll at least push it through and they'll give you something in between. I went back and checked and they gave me the whole thing. They doubled it.
Nice.
So now my credit card utilization is much, much smaller for the amount that I've been using every month. Mm-hmm. So I'm never even going to get close to that 30% that they want to see, that the algorithm is watching, that if you go over, it's going to start dinging and go negatively towards your credit cards or your credit score.
Yeah.
So whatever your credit card utilization number is, if you have 5 credit cards and they all add up to 10,000, never, ever, ever at one point during the month go more than 30%, which would be 3,000. 3,000. Okay. Because they report multiple times during the month.
Yep.
And even if you plan on paying it off before the month, they still may see that you had more than 30% utilization during that month. So I pay mine off. When I had it smaller, I would pay it off multiple times during the month because I never wanted them to see it go over 30%. And your credit score will freaking skyrocket.
All right.
So I'm sitting over 800 right now and have been for a long time because I did the research and I've watched the videos and I read the blogs and I wanted to understand everything once I got my head out of my ass about credit, how to make sure that I had awesome credit. So I can, if there's an opportunity or I need to buy a house or an investment property or even, getting a business loan on a car, you got to use credit for everything. So great job on starting so early because it took me a lot longer to learn that.
It feels good too. I was talking to my mom about it recently. She's in a good spot, but it took her a while to get there as well too.
Right on.
And so I look at it as, I'm 25 years of age, which is young considerably, especially to be in a position where I have my mind where it is at this point in time. But I imagine myself of what I could have done if I would have had it, taken advantage of it a little bit earlier. I'm like, 25 years, man. I know, but then it makes me think about, okay, what can I do for my kids down the road? What can I do to set them up, And so that's the exciting part.
And then you're getting ready to get added on as a signer onto your mom's credit card to accelerate it even more.
And so with her positive credit history, it's going to accelerate more. And that's going to help.
And you know when you can start? Speaking of kids, you can start from day one. As soon as your child has a social security number, you can add them as a signer on your credit card. So how would that have been?
Yeah.
If your mom would have known that.
Yeah.
But now you're going to know it. So as soon as my kids have a social security number, they go on as a signer on my credit cards.
Yep.
So they're going to have, by the time they're 18, they're going to have 18 years of positive history and positive credit.
That's killer.
Isn't that cool?
Yep. I'm doing the same thing.
There's all kinds of cool tricks and loopholes, and it's just not talked about enough.
Oh, no.
There's not this financial education in our school systems or in really anywhere. I've had to go do all this research myself. Yep. But that's one of the cool things about being involved in an environment like this, that's a people development company, a training and development company, is we're constantly talking about all these things that we've learned and how does it apply? How can you use it? Taxes, finances, investments, personal development.
Lifestyle, just as it is. I mean, that's my favorite part. I mean, I've had people reach out to me and be like, hey, there's this great opportunity trying to do the whole recruiting thing. I'm like, I don't think you guys understand. I don't care what percentage you're offering. I don't care what it looks like, what these luxuries are that you guys have gotten. I have loyalty here. Mm-hmm. I will not leave. If I'm going to do anything after this, it's going to be for myself. And that's the goal. Yep. I'm here. I've dedicated myself. I'm not turning my back on that. And that's where I'm at in my life, too, is that when I step to the plate, I will see whatever I do all the way through. Because who am I? What kind of man am I if I don't?
Yeah.
That's the thing. I will complete.
I'm excited for you for some of those reasons because you've had your ups and downs, but at your core, you've got a big heart, you have integrity, you're loyal, you're honest. And those things, whether you stay here at JKR Windows or you go on to do other things outside of this, you're going to do amazing things with your life, bro. Yep. I'm proud of you for the progress that you've made since the first time I met you and you ghosted me. You've come a long ways. You've stepped up.
Thank you. And I appreciate you. I'll say it over and over again. I said it before. Thank you for being patient with me. Same thing with, Jared. Thank you guys for seeing the potential that I didn't quite tap into and I didn't realize myself. At this point, I don't want to let anybody down anymore. Like I said, that's the biggest thing for me. It's not about me internally. Like I'm not putting myself at the center of my own world. We are the center of our own worlds. We create and manifest anything that we want to. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, you end up doing something amazing when you start looking outward and start doing it for other people as a team. Individually, when you do work for other people as a team, but you can also work within a team, it just becomes so exponential, the actual outcome of what those rewards are. And it's crazy to see because it's like, well, look what happened this month, And I don't find that to be enough. That will get broken again.
Yeah.
I will break it again.
You've got more in the tank. I think as good as you did last month, coming off of a couple of slow months, imagine if you now have some consistency and some momentum. What can happen? I have no doubt that you can break 642,000, which is the previous director record. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had a guy last month that was in his very first month as a director that almost broke that.
I know.
So it's achievable. And we at one point didn't think it was because the guy that had done it was just such an animal and he was, so disciplined and he worked 10, 12-hour days. Yep. But we've gotten more efficient as a company. Our process has gotten better. And our contract values have gone up significantly since then with just inflation. Mm-hmm. So now there's all these things that are working for us to be able to continue to break records, set new standards. And with those new standards, you got to have higher expectations. We got to be better. We got to do more.
Oh, yeah.
We got to figure out how to duplicate it.
Yep. And once you've done it once, it can be duplicated. That's where the taking the notes, paying attention, being present, that's what really matters.
Okay, so we were talking about this earlier, and I think one of the things that separates you and some of our other top performers from the other guys that are, average or below average is, for one, you got some natural abilities. You're a good-looking guy, so there's some of that. Yeah. Like, we can't ignore that or look past that. But then there's also the work that you're doing outside of just your regular business hours. Yeah. We were talking about it. Like, there's a professional level and there's an amateur level. Yeah. And the professionals get to play in the big games because they do all the work in between. And all the amateur guys, they show up and play church ball and they join leagues and they're amateurs. Yep. And they got jobs in between. And they don't ever put any time in between to get better or to hone their skills or to practice, drill, rehearse to make it to a professional level. But to be able to hit 477,000, you're doing all the right things. You've got your morning routine dialed, but then you're also doing your trainings and you're listening to the recordings. You're practicing your rebuttals. You don't acquire those skills by osmosis. No. You have to put in the work, and that's what separates the amateurs from the professionals.
Yep. Well, you have to keep your tank clean, though. You have to give yourself the right fuel. So I listened to a lot of the stuff that you were talking about, where it's like all these sugars and everything that you're intaking, and it's like my body's at that point. I've been young enough where it's never really affected me that much.
You finally started listening. I kept thinking a lot of that stuff was going over your head, but you were listening.
I was listening. So I'm very, very disciplined on not taking in any sugars. If I do take sugars, it's very, very minimal on certain types of drinks. I'm not doing the energy drinks anymore. I don't do the pre-workout anymore. I rarely take anything to boost my energy whatsoever. Mm. If I do anything, it's like a green tea type drink. Mm-hmm. I'll do green tea. That's mine and my girl's thing. But when it breaks down to it, I'm also making sure that I'm not eating. There's no fast food. Mm-hmm. No need for that. When it comes down to it, I'm home, I'm cooking. If I can, while we're out, we're cooking on those trips, on the pods. If not, I'm just eating healthy. I'm going to the right places, getting the right food in my body. Yeah.
You can eat healthy everywhere you go. Yep. I know it's convenient to go to get some fast food, but there is usually a grocery store right next to most fast food places. Yep. And maybe it does cost a little bit more and take a little bit more time, but we're talking about your natural energy and your longevity and your immune system that are all going to suffer if you don't make that extra decision to go eat healthy.
Oh, it's huge.
Pay attention.
And the burnout that people have fatigue-wise, and I noticed it from before to where it's like some hot days during the summer, I was like, man, it's just the heat. No, it's internally. Mm-hmm. It's really what you're putting in and what you're able to put out afterwards, because we went out in Yuma the last couple of days. I mean, I'm out there knocking 90-plus degree weather, sometimes 103, 105 on 2 of the hottest days, and pushing through just continually. And everybody's out there that lives out there, and they try to say, oh, it's not that bad, it's not that bad. But then they see you out there working, and they can see it, and they're like, hey, stay cool, man. Like, take care of yourself. And I'm like, I'm cool as can be right now. Like, just because of everything that I have been doing, the way of properly hydrating, the way that I take care of my body, and then where my mindset is at, like, I'm not stopping. And it's kind of crazy to see that flip and that turn. But then the affirmations that I'm doing in the morning, that helps. When I'm waking up, it's no social media. I'll do the affirmations audible. I'm visualizing what my day's going to look like. I'm visualizing what my next day is going to look like before I go to
Mm-hmm.
I'm making sure not to take in any social media during lunchtime. I'm not even getting like in the small essence of like, oh yeah, let's do these little rewards here and there. It's strictly disciplined, where especially if I'm looking back and I'm not getting the results that I wanted from my morning run.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Do you remember Blake talking about managing your dopamine?
Yep. I've done a lot of that.
And that's what you're doing. Yep. And intentionally or unintentionally, it's working because you're doing this risk or this reward program for yourself. It's all based off of the impact that you're making and the progress that you're making. And it doesn't have to have all these outside influences like eating like shit and social media and partying. Your dopamine levels come from the little wins and the progress and the help that you're offering to your team.
When I'm working, I'm working. Especially when we're out of town, you can talk to my girlfriend about it. I wake up in the morning. I'll let her text me because I don't want to wake her up. I wake up a little bit earlier than she does, so I let her get her rest. She'll text me, and I'm just telling her how much I love her, how I'm grateful for her. I'm even thinking about it when I wake up and look at my phone. That's the first thing that's on my phone. She's ever my girl. And going throughout the whole entire day, I'm passing out my gratitude. I'm texting my mom in the morning, sending out my love. And then when I'm working, I'm working. I let people know.
Yeah. No distractions.
No distractions. It's strictly my apps, what I'm doing at the door, me making sure that I'm showing up for these people so they can see I'm present, I'm here to help. Because that's really what I'm doing. I'm trying to help out as many people as I can. Mm-hmm. And so going throughout that process.
Protecting your environment. Right?
It's huge.
Protecting your environment, your mindset, and all of these outside influences and the content that's constantly having an impact on us.
Yep.
It has an impact on your productivity too.
Yep, it does. And then the way that I reward myself is when I get back home, time that I get to spend with my lady. When I can go out and have a nice dinner with her, have the night to ourselves. And it doesn't matter if we start the day like Sunday was a great day. We woke up, we went out, we went to Fiesta Fun. I took my nephews and my mom out.
I love that you guys go there.
On there.
That's so cool.
I took them out there. That was on me. After that, we went and got some lunch. We went and played some pool because that's what we do. Me and my lady's favorite pastime is playing pool. After that, we went and had a really nice dinner. We sat down and enjoyed ourselves. Went back and just relaxed for the night. Talked about what our week was going to look like this next week.
It's amazing.
And so that's my reward, is noticing the actual availability that I'm able to have in that time, but then also having all these doors being open because of the hard work that I put in. It's not like I just have to go, hey, babe, like let's sit at home and I'll make dinner. Like that sounds great. And we'll just hang out. Like I like to be able to go out and experience these things.
And now you got the resources to do it.
Exactly. And that's the biggest thing.
So I am curious. So how much did you make in the month of April?
I would say, I think definitely over 40 grand, but like 40 grand. Because going through everything with the bonus. So we started out with that bonus from Colorado.
Yeah.
From Grand Junction. That was like 5.9. And then ending with the bonus that I'm getting at the end of the month from my actual revenue, that's at about 7.2 grand for a bonus. So I was able to beat out the bonus that I got from Grand Junction for the whole month. And then every single week, I don't think I made under 4 grand on a check. Mm-hmm. One paycheck was also 9.7 because I got 11 sales in a week.
And that's a new record, right? 11 sales in a week?
Yes.
Amazing. Well, that's what happens when you focus your attention towards things that are going to help you with your productivity, your growth, your goals. It's amazing to see how fast it's happened for you. And now I'm watching for some consistency.
Oh, yeah.
Because not everybody can do it at the level that you do it. And now what everybody's watching for is if you can consistently put up those numbers and show up, contribute to your team, and still perform at a high level. And I know that you can.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to say another thing that people miss out on is a lot of people have this confidence, but it's not always there, right? They allow their emotions to control their confidence levels, but let alone they're not mentally in that right spot. And because of how mentally aware I am and how controlled my environment is now, my confidence does not wane. So when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, and my belief is 100% there. I have confidence in myself. It's not confidence in my abilities. It's confidence in who I am and what I do and following up and building that consistency as well.
Yeah.
Because that is huge. People have this confidence in, oh, I got all the skills or I got these good looks. Well, as soon as somebody tells you you're ugly or the skills don't work for you, where does your confidence go? It goes out the window.
Yeah.
Right? And so it doesn't matter what's coming down my way. I've tapped into my confidence. I'm building the consistency and I'm staying disciplined. And I don't see myself letting go of that whatsoever. I won't allow myself to. I will say that because you have to manifest.
I'll help you stay accountable to it too. Yeah. We got some big things to accomplish. For us to be able to hit the goals as a company that we want to hit, we're going to need you to step up and continue to lead the pack and contribute to the team and train and mentor these guys as much as you have been and even more.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you stepping up and do that. You're making a huge impact. I hear your name from so many different angles and different places, and the Draper office is listening to your serials. You're making a big impact, man. So proud of you for your big record month in April. Looking forward to some more record months coming up.
Absolutely.
And I think the message of the day is that you can create something by being intentional. And what Bobby has done is just taken all the things that he's learned here, the system, the processes, the culture, the environment, and then combined it with his own morning routines and his discipline and protecting his environment and keeping out all the negative influences and the content and putting his action items together that go along with these big, crazy goals that he has and just being consistent with the daily activity. And anybody can do it. That's what separates the amateurs from the professionals, though, is executing on the plan, putting the action plan together and executing it. So take a lesson from Bobby's rule book and go apply these things in your own life, in your own daily activities, and see the kind of amazing things that can happen. Thank you for checking in. Another great episode of Just Real Quick. Me and Bobby are checking out. See you next time.